Good morning, you guys. It's your boy Ben Mohari here, representing Mohari Nation Sports Podcast. Salute to the entire boxing community, man. Hope y'all had a good weekend, man. Hope y'all were staying safe out there. You know what I mean, and being with your families and all that other good stuff. But I wanted to particularly talk about Canelo Alvarez here, and a lot of publications, a lot of trolls out there are pretty much still trying to say that Canelo is still the face of boxing, despite the fact that he got dominated by Dmitry Bivol. But I'm here to tell you guys right here, right now, the walls are closing in on Canelo Alvarez. And the reason is that right now, as we speak, at both 168 and at 175, the walls are closing in on him because there are no more cherry picks for him to choose at this point. All right. Despite the fact that he's the man at 168, okay, there's a lot of people out there that are going to do whatever they takes to try to take away his crown. And the names include David Benavidez, David Morrell, Jamal Charlo, and yes, Caleb Plant as well. All right, we can't dismiss that factor in. But those three names, as I mentioned, including Plant as well, those are the only few people that I can see right now that have a legitimate chance of beating Canelo Alvarez. Even though Plant fell short against Canelo, I think a second time around would be a better outcome for him. But besides Plant, I'm going to take Plant away in this instance. Benavidez, okay, Morrell, and now Charlo are the only three people I can see right now that's going to give Canelo Alvarez a lot of problems, and I can see Canelo losing to all three of them. All three of them. Right now, he's in a lose-lose situation. And the reason is that he has no other cherry picks to choose from. Because either he tries to take a rematch against Bivol, he'll end up losing again. And I think this time he'll get knocked out. Even if he forces him to go down to 168, Dmitry Bivol is much more superiorly skilled than Canelo Alvarez. That's why I'm highly convinced at this point that Bivol will beat him again in a rematch and probably will stop him. Okay? David Benavidez had an impressive outing against David Lemieux and pretty much showed his entire arsenal. Barring that he stays clean and stays out of trouble, I think David Benavidez has also one of those guys that has a better opportunity and a better chance of beating Canelo Alvarez. We already know what Jamal Charlo can do. But I think there's a kind of fight that Canelo can have a better chance of going against because both Jamal Charlo and Canelo Alvarez like to fight in a phone booth type of a fight. So I think that he may have a somewhat of a better chance with Charlo, but I still think Charlo, with his superior athletic ability and his ability to, fight with power, I think Jamal Charlo will basically walk the floor with Canelo Alvarez. Like I said before, Canelo Alvarez, he knows that the walls are closing in. There's no other cherry picks for him to choose right now other than a 40-year-old Gennady Golovkin. And I still think that Gennady Golovkin could have a chance of beating Canelo Alvarez as well. But outside of Golovkin, there's not many guys out there that he can pretty much cherry pick around, which leads to this major question. Two major questions. One, does he go for the rematch with Dmitry Bivol and avenge that loss? Two, does he go against one of the other top guys in 168 and try to prove himself against those elite fighters? Or the third and final option of all, just continue to cherry pick throughout his career, make all the money that he wants, and retire from the sport. I'm telling you right now, if he decides that third option, it is going to hurt his legacy more than anything else. All right. We already know how he got wiped the floor with Floyd Mayweather. Listen, Floyd Mayweather dominated him for all 12 rounds. I don't care what anyone else says. But Canelo Alvarez right now, his feet are basically cemented. He doesn't move the ring well. He does punch well. He has very good punching ability, but he doesn't know how to use the ring. His defense is very questionable. And more importantly to that, this is the kind of guy that if you basically hurt him, he doesn't know how to adjust when he gets hurt. So right now, there's not many cherry picks for him to choose right now. And even if he decides to take that cherry pick route, people are going to start losing more and more respect for him as a fighter. We're already seeing that right now with the amount of criticism that he's been taking after the loss he took against Dmitry Bivol. This is a guy that's been continuously cherry picking throughout his entire career. He's taking easy fights after easy fights, And I just believe at this point right now, his skill set hasn't gotten any better. It's pretty much is what it is at this point. And I don't see him getting any better at all. Right now, the only thing he needs to do right now at this point is fight against the best and build his legacy as one of the greats in the sport. And if he's not willing to do that, then it's pretty much a wrap for him as in terms of his reputation as a top elite fighter. Listen, the people still try to say him that he's the best pound for pound fighter in the sport. But the bottom line is, if Earl Spence decided to go in there and go up to 160 to face against Canelo Alvarez, I very highly doubt that Canelo Alvarez will stand a chance against Earl Spence Jr. We know what Earl Spence could do. He basically punches very well 147, and I think his weight will translate in other divisions. So I don't think right now Canelo would want to try to accept that kind of fight with Earl Spence. But I'm telling you right now, the walls are closing in on Canelo Alvarez, and the excuses are starting to run out. He's either got to fight against the best at 168, or he could just cherry pick and pretty much take more criticism and pretty much diminish his legacy as a fighter, if it wasn't diminished as it is, or just pretty much retire and never fight these guys ever again. When I say that, he's pretty much putting himself at risk of not fighting those elite fighters, I meant what I said. Because the bottom line is, the guy has never fought against Demetrius Andrade, which I forgot to mention. How could I forget Demetrius Andrade? He's never fought Andrade. He's never fought Charlo. He's never fought Benavidez. He's never fought Morrell. I mean, those are 4 elite fighters that he could have fought at this point. But he chose not to do it because in his mind, those styles create problems. And more importantly, there's a good chance that he might either get humiliated for 12 rounds if the judges, judge it correctly, or risk getting knocked out. And I think that's both of those scenarios. So, at the end of the day, man, this is not looking good for Canelo Alvarez. And I'm telling you right now, if he wants to salvage whatever, legacy that he may have, he's going to have to start taking tougher fights. And if he doesn't, it's a wrap for him. And that's all I got to say about that. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. And with that, I'm out. Peace.